Stars. Magic Johnson should have embraced HBO's Winning Time. Now it's too late because it's been canceled. The question many people had before tuning into the premiere of HBO's Winning Time was if Magic Johnson would be watching it. In so many words, he responded by saying, "I'm not going to be here," unquote. Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty, has now been canceled after its second season. So much money, so much costumes, so much wigs, so much crew, so many locations, so much story. But that's how the cookie crumbles. They cite lower viewership and high production costs as their reasoning. The hit series chronicled the Lakers' rise to prominence in the 1980s. At the helm of this success was the trailblazing owner of the Lakers, Dr. Jerry Buss. It was he who made the call to draft Hall of Fame point guard Earvin Magic Johnson. From this point, a host of events transpired on and off the court, with the eccentricities of the 1980s as the backdrop. The 80s were a decade synonymous with excess. There's a sense of freedom and opulence that exudes from that period. The short-lived show took a more detailed look at the goings-on of the time through the eyes of Lakers players and brass. Magic Johnson comes along as one of the NBA's, quote, next big things, and is thrown into a world of superstardom. A huge theme of this series was to illustrate Johnson adjusting to newfound fame after humble beginnings. I thought Winning Time did an amazing job at that, with the help from Jeff Pearlman's book, Showtime Magic Kareem Riley, and the Los Angeles Lakers dynasty of the 1980s. Much of Pearlman's book took on new life in that 2 seasons that Winning Time ran. With that, stories are told in Winning Time that a lot of the Lakers players of the 80s never thought would be revisited on screen. So that leads us where? That regardless of what went on with Magic Johnson during that time, he should feel differently about the show. Johnson, as well as many of his other teammates, took the stance that
different
much of
shows
the
coming
series'
out.
details
Really? You have your
were
own show in the works?
exaggerated or flat
Well,
out
I got
untrue.
one. And
Except
then you got
maybe
GD Buss
one,
got one
Spencer
on
Haywood
Showtime coming out. So
appreciated his
those
depiction
are
in
the
the
ones
series. Spencer
looking
Haywood's
forward to,
battle
okay?
with
Oh, so the HBO one didn't get your
substances was a
blessing.
big
Then.
theme in season
like I
1
said,
of Winning Time.
I'm not
It was
looking
a
forward to it.
graphic
I'm going to leave it at that.
Are you gonna
story
watch?
detailing
No.
No.
That's cool. That's the competitor in you. I
what
like
could
that.
tarnish a legacy. Haywood leaned into it and saw it more as a recognition of his journey. That sentiment, some hoped, is what Johnson would see as well. The Lakers' current president, Jeannie Buss, has even shown appreciation for the series. Like most content on TV, there are dramatizations. You have to fill in the spaces of fact with other content to help weave the events together. That's simply the nature of the beast. I mean, I guess until it's your life and your story and your truth being fictionalized and maybe not in the most flattering or aspirational light. Johnson stated that what we see depicted in Winning Time was, quote, not even close to reality. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said as much in so many words too. But Buss and Haywood seem to think that there are far more accurate portrayals in this series than not. Winning Time delves graphically into how compulsive Johnson's sexual smexual appetite was at that time. As someone who touted not having a problem with substances, it was clear in that era what his vice was. There are portrayals of him wanting to maintain a relationship with his wife, Cookie, while managing life on the road. I do think as viewers, we do have empathy for indiscretion, but as with all things, there are limits. In season 1, Johnson gets another woman pregnant while still trying to keep Cookie. There are several scenes that depict Magic as the object of most women's eyes. Just women? And he is seen indulging at copious levels. It's a stark contrast to how most view Johnson after his 1991 HIV diagnosis announcement. In this lifetime, we know Johnson is more of a business mogul than anything. His philanthropy as it pertains to HIV awareness and research is unparalleled. He is someone who has clearly evolved since his younger years, as we all should, but he hasn't taken kindly to his story being told without his input. And why should he? Right? It's not only his story, but who's making money off of this series and his story, not him. And this is a moment in time where, quite frankly, there are storytelling companies that are run and owned by Black athletes, right? Spring Hill Company is LeBron James's, marketing and storytelling company. So why not take a story like this to a grown Black man with a family who's been on the road and knows what that is really like, so that not only more sensitive and accurate storytelling can be told, but maybe less exploitative, right? We know what late night on HBO is all about. We've all seen Game of Thrones and Euphoria and The Idol, right? If it's so great to have your especially personal life fictionalized, then why don't any of these other people have their lives and their, love lives up for exploitation? Oh, is it less interesting than, 6 foot plus Black men? In my humble opinion. Although Johnson has detailed some of his past escapades in early 1990s interviews and books. We all appreciate seeing all versions of a really juicy story. Older generations have a way of wanting to hide some of the more juicy adventures of their past, but sharing those experiences can sometimes serve as a cautionary tale. Winning Time was a coming-of-age story of a player and executive in Dr. Jerry Buss and Magic Johnson. It's amazing what a full life Johnson has lived and the number of lives he's positively impacted after going through his life experiences. It would be great to have more tellings of the very successful, Lakers project, maybe with a little bit more perspective, and writers who are, and creators who are more closely identified with the actual subjects of the story. I'll put it like that. And whether or not Magic actually watched it, whether he advocates for this version of it, is neither here nor there. It's great that the story was seen to be at the level, to be an investment worthy by a company like HBO, but for cost and viewership to be at odds, maybe that's more about the craft behind this show and not just whether or not Magic Johnson and other people say they liked it and they thought it was accurate. Maybe it was more about the look, who was centered in the story, because as much as there was some Johnson story in there, there were some other people's stories too. And is the Lakers viewer showing up for, kind of behind the scenes and, what I'm sure are expensive actors who were not, shall we say, on the floor in the world of the story. In any case, I'm sure this isn't the last we've heard of the Magic Johnson Lakers story. Maybe Winning Time and HBO was the first bite at the apple in terms of scripted series, but perhaps not the last one. I think this is a great time for Magic Johnson and the boys to go on over there and see LeBron James and his, staff right in the heart of Hollywood and get something going. It'll take some time to write it and find a deal, but I think the public's appetite has been whet in a way that could lead to bigger, greater, more accurate storytelling that maybe Magic and Kareem can get excited about. How about that? Just my perspective. Even if it's going to get into that late night HBO adult content that they love so much.